Guten Abend. Ich heiße Riina und ich komme aus Finnland. Ich habe 5 Jahre Deutsch gelernt, aber es ist viel lange in der Past, so ich kann nicht so viel Deutsch sprechen. I will understand if you speak German to me, but I have very much difficulty sounding like anything else, like a 5-year-old kid trying to learn, so I hope you apologize that I will speak English today. Is that cool with you guys? Good. So, wow. My job is awesome. You guys are everyone here and interested in Agile HR, which is my passion. It's a big passion of mine since I read the Scrum Guide in 2010. Let's just have a warm-up first. Let's kind of get the touch of what kind of an audience we have here today. So let's just raise hands and see when I ask a question. Just raise a hand if you do it or not. Who is working in an agile team from you guys? Okay, good. Who is working with HR? Great, we have a good mix today. Who is a manager? Sorry for you guys. Yeah. It's going to be rough for you guys today. Who is a CEO of a company? Good. Hope you will learn something today that you can take home. You're a CEO as well. You decided to be a CEO now? Yeah? No? Okay. Who has heard about Agile? Who? Okay, and now let's have compassion. Who is very new with Agile? Okay, so there's probably some insider jokes here. Good. Good, now we know a little bit. So the next thing is, turn to your right or left and say hello to somebody you don't know, and tell them what you like to do when you're not working. Just one sentence, what you like to do when you're not working. One sentence. Ein Sentence. What's sentence in German? Ein Satz. Okay, thank you. You did terribly bad. Good. So now you've opened the discussion with the friends that you don't know, so it's much easier to talk during my speech because I'm going to have you think about stuff together a bit, with 3 or 4 sentences, because we won't be here for forever. Yeah. Okay, so People Geeks is my company. I have co-founded it in the summer, and we are working with change and transformation from a people perspective, so business development from the people perspective, including a lot of HR technology, people technology, management technology that we have in a portfolio of ours, and we like to put in analytics as well. But what my part is I'm the people system architect, if you may. Those who are there any tech architects in the room? None. They are not interested in HR. Well, okay. So I'm kind of the people system architect. I worked with people from, with individuals. I worked with teams. I worked with units and large organizations. So I kind of have it in my somewhere that I try to figure out how people work together, may it be big or small. I started working in HR since I graduated a long time ago, and I worked 10 years for the corporations, the corporate HRs, and 10 years I was feeling that, why am I doing this? What are we doing? There is no reason in this, because I went to a technical university. I'm a chemist, so I studied a lot of organic stuff, organic chemistry, how nature works, what kind of feedback system nature has, how adaptive it is. And then I came to these corporations that tried to put people as in they were in a machine. So, break down processes, you just take care of this little process and you're a number in the system, and if you just do that and follow the process, everything will be fine. And that's kind of machine thinking instead of organic thinking. Until 2010, I came across Scrum Guide, and it was like something hit me from the, above, and like somebody had written down a very organic way of working. There are short cycles, there are feedback cycles, self-organization, adaptive according to the environment and changes. And that's the second I decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do from now on. The next thought that hit me was, oh, HR is really broken for this system. So we need a new HR system for this. Since that, I've been working with that. HR. That is usually the reaction that I get when I talk about HR with especially software people. I started kind of trying to be friends with them in Finland 6 years ago. I said, hi, I'm from HR. I went to Agile conferences. They were like, stay away. Stay away from us because you ruin everything. You guys are basically putting sticks in our wheels trying to destroy Agile, so stay away. And I said, you know what, I'm going to stick around because when Agile grows, I saw it coming, when Agile grows and scales, you are going to hit your head on my backyard. What's on my backyard? Against performance management, against feedback cycles, against learning systems, against management development, which is all on my backyard as HR. So I stick around, I started working with that, and I hope that I can share some insights with you guys today. Question is, what do you need from HR, basically? Many people just think HR is the administrative, boring, getting the paper stuff done and all the administrative things for officials and all that. Oh, I'm happy that I have a dog as a listener too. He's not that interested though. Fantastic. He's very agile. Great. Doesn't look like that now. But it's good he's not now. What do you need from HR? It's admin, basically. What comes up to people's heads is admin. And when a company grows, it becomes more. If we look at human resources, where does that come from? It comes from over 50 years ago, over 60 years ago, when they started to have salaries, contracts, unions, all that kind of stuff. That's where HR comes from. And you can even hear that in the word resource. That's a terrible word for talking about people. That's an awful, awful word. It's only about 15 years ago that we actually started talking about renewable resources. Before that, it was just something that you could use, no? Longer? Or do you agree? Yeah. 15 years ago. Before that, it was just something you can use. Something you can use until it's done with. And this is basically where human resources come from. Resources were just part in the machinery. And when I talk about organizations, I usually use this picture to try to explain the differences. So when you come from an industrial organization, anyone heard about Taylorism? Yeah. It's an amazing, amazing book or PDF to read. The Principles of Scientific Management from 1911. It basically explains how industrial organizations should work, and man, they are working in the same way today. They have the same fundamentals, the same philosophy, the same ideology that somebody above you who is a manager should do the thinking, and then there's some people doing the doing. But thinking and doing are separated. That's the ideology. And that has been the basics and fundamentals where our kind of organizations have been built. So they are built into silos, there where somebody is thinking and making decisions. Decisions are escalated upwards, up into a black hole until something gets out of there, back. Then you kind of implement and do the work in these kind of lower level, right? What's happening now in the world is we are not living in this linear thinking anymore. We cannot think that a couple of people executives could make decisions for the whole group or the whole company. It's basically saying that the cap of potential is right there. The potential cap is right there where your executive, CEO's head or executive team's head is. That's the maximum you can get because they are making decisions, they are making the calls, they are making the strategies, they are budgeting, they are planning. Instead, we're seeing what's going on now in the digital business is exponential business. We're moving into decentralized organizations where decision-making is put as close to the customer as possible. Because you guys, you know your stuff. You've been trained to do your work, and you get all the data you need from the customer interface. So why on earth would you need to escalate any decisions about that work upwards anymore? So now we come to a point where a kind of question, and many companies are currently questioning the middle management. What should they be doing if they are not making the decisions and reporting and all the stuff in between, what's going on in these organizations on the left side? A big difference is the planning. So when we go from the industrial thinking, the thinking that you actually could, how ridiculous does that sound, that you actually could foresee what will be going on 1 year from now? Who is in a business that you would say that you know what will go on 1 year from now? Is there anyone here that... Oh, and still, you know. Very good. Very good. You probably are doing something with a longer perspective cycles. But no, there was one person out of, I'm not sure how many. And still, you're doing annual budgeting, annual planning. Many of you, not some of you aren't, I see. Still, many of the companies run as if we would know what will happen 1 year from now, or worse, on board level, 3 years from now. They want 3 years, 5. Okay, any more? 5? 5 over there. So, I mean, I've sat and listened to 2 VPs discuss, is this product of ours going to have a profit of 5.72% or 5.78% 5 years from now? And I'm like, are you realizing what you are spending your time on? And this is what we do. It's kind of a hoax that is all everywhere. But now this is changing with Agile. Because digital business will make us go into decentralized organizations, into Agile and lean thinking, methodologies, ways of working, collaborating. The planning cycles will be shorter, iterative, adding value and reacting to changes, much more adaptive, much more organic. This is just how business will be running. The more digital your business will be, the more you need to go into this direction. Because you cannot anymore do something in the digital world with 1 year span of control or thinking. Sorry? If you plan too much, you lose quality of your products. Depending on what you plan, if you're planning a nuclear plant, I'd love them to plan that very much. Like, put in a lot of planning, right? If you're planning something that will be very risky, you can risk tens of millions or the whole company. Do a lot of planning. That's cool. Cycle times. Cycle times are changing from developing something in months or years to developing something in weeks. The same happens with things inside the organization. So, for instance, feedback loops. How ridiculous is that you would have a discussion? Who is married? Okay, good for you. I'm too. How ridiculous would that be if you would have one discussion a year with your spouse about how it's going? And give that spouse a rating from last year, from 1 to 5. You know what, Mikael is my husband. Last year, during the whole year, you were a 3. That is what's going on in these companies. That is what we're doing. So frequencies and cycle times are going to be quicker. We see what's going on in quicker feedbacks, transparent data, people that can do decisions themselves, peer feedback. All of these things are changing currently. And it's been really difficult for these people who are sitting on top of that pyramid. It's really difficult to let go of the control and to let go of the status. Because on this left side of right side of that picture, how do you get the status? By knowing your stuff, by doing a good job, by delivering to customers, by getting the projects done. It's not about what your card says anymore. So it's really difficult for companies to transform from industrial to digital. And there are a lot of things that I talk about in the management part that is not part of this talk, but it's really difficult. The questions are, who makes decisions in your system, in your organization? This is a really important question, because if you're planning something for somebody else and make all that decisions, you are doing the industrial thinking, the Taylorism. If you are planning for somebody else and have them participate in decision making, you're taking them in and using more agile ways of working, getting quicker feedback loops. Who is making the decisions is a very relevant question. What kind of rewarding mechanisms are there? What you measure is what you get. This is a very, very old line, right? If you put in individual bonuses that leads to optimizing your performance, how on earth could you get team performance then, or a cross-team performance, or cross-organizational performance? So you need to understand which system you are designing to, what you want to, what's the value with the rewarding mechanism. People go there. If you can get 5,000, 7,000 more euros a year, I optimize that then in my, role. So be careful with the rewarding mechanisms. This is very important as well. Who is doing the thinking? And now managers, this is for you. Anytime somebody comes and asks you a question, you can go back to this question yourself. Who should be doing the thinking? Have I recruited that person to be doing this thinking, or should I do this thinking for her or for him? And if it's like he should be doing the thinking, then help him do the thinking. Don't give the answers, don't do the thinking for them, don't make the decisions. You may ask, what have you thought? How do you think about this? Have you thought about different alternatives? Have you chatted with other people? So you can help them think around that problem, but don't go into making the decisions. You're not helping the organization be agile then. Oh, that's too small, the text, but it basically says, I work with some large organizations, so we see this happening in all the industries that need to digitalize themselves. Banks are already with their pants down. Retail is with their pants down. They haven't really worked this quick enough. Service, all services. We see insurance. We see ICT, of course. We see media. They all are going in this way, and that's a big transformation. It's not just on team level, but this impacts everything, and that's why I think that Agile HR is important. Good. How does it work? This is where I would say Agile HR comes in. Agile HR, or HR, is there to do UX for work. Everyone knows what UX means? User experience, how work is working. We're basically designing how work is working, helping you to work better. That's our job. So if you want to be a great Agile HR or HR person, you need to know the system that you are designing to. If it's an industrial system where you can plan with 3-year planning, you're building, for instance, Statoil said that they are building these oil platforms. They know exactly what's going on. They know exactly what will happen 2 years from now. If you're doing that, you can design for that. But if you're an HR, starting working for a company where there is digital business models, you need to understand the Agile business model so you can design for Agile. Who is the customer and what is the value provided? Those are questions for the HRs. So we're going from this where the HR has been trying and the management has been trying to, define even more closer and on a granular level on what everyone should be doing and what the policies for everything is. And, this is your turf and this is your turf and stay in your box and take care of that things in your box. But you know what really happens in a complex world, in the real world? This is kind of the Mickey Mouse world we live in. But in the real world, there's a lot of stuff falling in between those boxes. That's where everything happens, where you can't define it. And that's the human interaction, the collaboration, the culture, how you answer people. Are you calling them or writing emails? Are you, that's everything in between those boxes. And we are moving to some kind of an agile system, agile way of working. We're trying to make this work in Agile HR. I'm just going to let you chat for 3 minutes. Jessica, this kind of was the introduction to what I'm going to talk about soon. So what is your kind of feeling on the organizations? Where are they going? What is on your table regarding this? Talk about what is on your table. How do you reflect over this? And I'll give you 4 minutes, okay? And then I'll kind of come to a couple of comments. Is that okay? Okay, so talk with the person that you said hello to, and talk what is on your table currently regarding this. Okay, guys, thank you. Let's have a couple of comments. Anyone who is burning to share what your friend talked about or you talked about, so please use the mic. We would be very interested in hearing a couple of comments. You will get a beer if you comment. Okay, then I'll pick on you. You guys over there in the middle, what kind of thoughts did you have? Could you please take the mic over there? Because you were speaking, I saw you speaking over there in the middle. What kind of insights or ideas did you have?
The problem we have is we aren't a very big company, so we have only a few developers. So it's very difficult to implement something like Kanban.
Yeah.
If you're on the project, only 1 or 2 developers, so
yes, you're pretty much alone. Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that. And then we can continue with this game, so you can continue putting that somewhere but behind there, and I'll say stop somewhere. Okay, so go ahead. Give the mic forward.
I spoke to my neighbor about the question if what you are talking about, the topics, if they increase the more complex a company is. He's working in a startup, can we say that? Or
20 years old, but small company.
in a small company, and he's putting out the thesis that they have been agile in 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They don't know the word for it, but
exactly.
they are doing so.
Agile is very
had a discussion if that scales out, if they are growing and growing and growing.
Very good commentary, because Agile is very organic. It's how we work naturally. And if you're a small company that tries to build and tries to learn and tries to figure out how to do it, that's how you do it. Very good. Thank you very much. Let's have something from somebody. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Let's get you the microphone as well. Oh, lucky you. Lucky you back there. You didn't hear.
Yes, Svenja told me about the fact that it's very hard in organizations to overcome objections. So when it comes about change, it's very hard to motivate people to change themselves. Also when they work in that surrounding for 20 years, they would like to work in that surrounding for 20 more years. So I think also in our organization, it's hard to motivate people to work in another way.
Yep. That is definitely true, and if you think about what what you just said is kind of, I am motivating you to change. It's an external force that tries to change you when the change really is what comes from within. So our changes and transformation are also run, if you would like to say, on that kind of implementation phase. We are implementing a change. We are impacting you, so you need to change behavior, you need to change thinking, you need to change you. And who wouldn't be, a bit, what's going on? So our change processes, how we implement or support change, need to start working with what's going on in here and here. More, I would say. Very good commentary. It's hard to change other people. Yeah. Good. So let's continue. If you're in HR, next slide is for you. Anyone heard of that? If you're in HR and you work in any kind of R&D, any kind of business which is digital, this is what you're going to see very soon. Unfortunately, for somebody, I basically like the kind of logic behind this, because it's just otherwise so difficult to implement agile on scale in old organizations. This is the organization chart, the new one. So if you want to implement any HR practices or processes, you need to start working with this chart, and there's a 2-day course and a 4-day course and all-day courses to know how that works. I don't have time for going through that now. But there are new roles, new cycles, new timings, new everything that you need to work with if you're in HR. So this is something you might want to learn. Now, for you guys who are not in HR, I have a surprise for you. And I have a request for somebody who is close to that wall. I've put, there is a scissors on that. Can you see the scissors? So if you see the scissors, can you go and clip away the tapes from one of these white flip charts? So you can see that, because you won't see everything when I'm playing around here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to explain to you guys what HR is about. Companies growing, so what I usually hear is, those HRs, I don't know what they're doing. They're just, taking care of some contracts and recruitment, basically. But look at this. Any company that is starting needs payroll, okay? That would be nice. Absences requires taking care of, knowing who is absent and why. Holidays requires, in many companies and countries, being cared of. Pensions, we have pension system, each country different pension systems. So if you have operations in different countries, many different pension systems, not nice, not my point, not my cup of tea. Somebody else in HR is taking care of that. But insurances, we need insurances. I'm not sure how it's in Germany, but in many countries we need insurances. HR is taking care of those. Benefits, if you have some benefits, like in this amazing, amazing company. Who is the CEO of this company? Is he here? Say hello to him. He is amazing, building this kind of things. Benefits. Healthcare. Many countries have healthcare systems for their employees that HR needs to take care of, with all the administrative things and all the paperwork and all the looking out that they are doing the correct things. Occupational safety. Oh, hi. Hey. 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 Fee. Equality policy. This is something that many countries need to have. It can be 2 lines of text, or it can be a long document, or it can actually be helpful and useful. So then we have work time. Then we have contracts. Then we have NDAs. Then we have non-compliance. If something of this is broken or somebody is doing a wrong thing, we need to take care of that as well. We have works councils. Does Germans know about this? Yes, it's fun. It's like the ultimate kryptonite for Agile, often, Don't tweet that, because I need to be friends with them sometimes. Yeah. Keys. In some companies, keys, ID cards, flowers, computers, whatever might be on HR's plastics. Mandatory trainings. Many of the industries have mandatory trainings that you need to take care of, safety, regulations, or something. We have compensation stuff. Other compensation stuff, they are like super much different kind of salary parts that needs to be taken care of. And it's not a picnic, it's not on my table either. I hate it, but I know about it. Okay. Bonuses in some companies. And what do you need when you have all that? You need to write HR policies. So you have all of these written in HR policies, so everyone knows what to do and how the game rules are. Then, and here, you haven't really added any value to the company yet, right? This is just the stuff that needs to be happening. And if it's not, it's like the hygiene stuff, okay? Then we come to stuff which is adding a bit more value. Recruitment, very relevant. Training. Yes, sorry, a bit boring. This is the first. Events. We are also an event planner and Christmas parties and stuff like that in some companies. I'm seeing two people look at each other and go like, yeah. We have to take care of the personnel plan. So every company needs to have a personnel plan for some different reasons, many different reasons. So we need to plan for a year or many forward, which is, again, strange. And then when you grow enough, company grows, suddenly it's not enough to just have team members. We need somebody to care for this stuff for the team members. So we add managers there. And we start onboarding people. We take care of how people are onboarded if this is not taken care of by the organization. This is now kind of the traditional organization I'm talking about. We have organizational design, so what kind of teams, what kind of managers, how to shuffle around the organization, if we need to lay off or get more people in, all of that. Performance of this whole system and people. Employer branding, when we recruit, we would like to have cool people inside our house, so that's basically on our table as well. And when we have managers taking care of all of this, they probably don't know how to do it without some manager development, so we add that development there as well. Then we support them when they take care of this as well, right? So we try to support them doing a good job in doing the HR work. Yeah. And then we take care of feedback. What kind of feedback loops, what kind of systems we have for feedback. We try to put in development discussions in some companies. I personally think they are a bit old school, but that's also on HR's table. We have mergers and acquisitions. When they happen, we take care of the due diligence and we take care of the administration of the people stuff there. We have a lot of contingent workforce, so non-full-time employees that come and go, and we look at them as well. We are looking at learning tools and processes. We are fostering diversity because that needs to be done somehow, because we are very biased as people. So we have now seen what's going to what happens when white men and women vote in some countries. We have expat processes, so if you need to send people abroad, we need to take care of the expatriation for them. We have international assignments, we should have them. Policies and practices, so if we send people to an assignment abroad, there's all of this in another country, so we take care of that. We have employer social media channels, so somehow somebody thought that HR is also a marketing professional, taking care of the social media channels, and driving traffic and driving great applicants to our pages. Organizational change. We take care of that and think about how it impacts all of this as well. Employee cost structure. We have employee research and pulses and surveys, so we need to think about how this all works and ask people, how is this working for you guys? So we do that as well. We take care of headcount and full-time equivalent calculations. We take care of senior management contracts because we like to see them done well and legally, and so that it won't become too expensive to get rid of them. We have well-being things on our plate, not the healthcare, but the well-being of people, how they work together, how they basically sleep, recover, all of that. And then somebody has been talking about, you need to care for the talent as well. So in some companies there is talent processes and practices. I basically think that everyone has a talent if you can just, focus it correctly. And to care of all of this, we need an HR system and HR data, and not to kind of make it easy, we are also the soul doctor, so you can come and cry on my shoulder. Yeah. We also are somehow, trying to add leadership on top of these management things. Here, the leadership part, so we try to take care of that. And what also brings a lot of work to us is when leaders f up, when they really make a mess and make mistakes here. So we need to care for that. So this is what's on HR's table in organizations that are growing more and more of these. Some of them are just hygiene factors. Some of them are really adding value. And most of them are needed also in agile companies, but they are just designed in a different way. So now I come to the point is, how do you decide all of this? Agile HR, what is it all about? So when you design this for an agile company, it looks different than if you're designing it for an industrial company. That is, in my opinion, I've kind of defined agile HR like this for me. So it's designing all of these things or getting rid of it or whatever. This is the architecture of HR. Designing this for an agile company is agile HR. The other definition that I have kind of gave to myself is how to use agile methodologies in HR ourselves. So can we use Scrum when we develop a new service? Can we use lean startup, so experimental way of developing a part of the recruitment process? Can we try something new in one recruitment to learn, to get feedback? Yeah, we can. So we can use a lot of agile methodologies when we do HR as well. And the third one is using agile values when you create something, when you create HR. And you can look up the agile values on Agile Manifesto and Agile HR Manifesto. Now, let's look at these three pictures. I'm just going to share with you. These things require processes. These require, I know a lot of agile people hate the word process, but it basically is a way to handle things smarter in the same way if you repeat that, okay? So these things require some kind of processes. And I've written down the process capability, maturity as well. So anytime you kind of, first you do something and it's initial, it's not written down anywhere, it's in somebody's head, somebody's just taking care of something in the way they think it's the best way. And then when a company grows or when the process is required many times over, this person might say, okay, this is repeatable, I'll do it the same way, I'll teach somebody else to do it as well. And somewhere along the line you come to defining it, usually writing it down or writing instructions or whatever. Then comes a managed, you start managing it, you just start measuring it. What do we want to gain with this? What are the measures? How is it working? How can we develop this further? And when you're there, you start optimizing it. You can really start optimizing processes. So this is kind of a maturity of a process. And now we come to the point with especially agile transformations is if you are in this organization, you have been developing these processes up to a point of here. So you basically created organizational habits through the processes and policies and instructions and works councils and everything. It's an organizational habit. And if you start redesigning them, it's a huge, huge change. So if you are on this side, if you start going on this side, you need a totally new architecture because guess what? All of these are connected with each other. All of them connect somehow. Feedback connects with management, connects with development discussions, connects with recruitment somehow. And we HRs know that. So if you start changing the paradigm from industrial to agile, we need a new HR architecture. And it can start small. We can start changing something, but some of the connections will be broken during that change, and we just need to live with it. Many of you have probably heard that a lot of companies are changing performance management now. This one, right? They're getting rid of the ratings, the once a year Gauss curves. But what they find is that their kind of connection to bonuses, this is broken now when they change this. They are thinking, how do they define bonuses? How do they measure what bonuses to give to people? So you can see the architecture here. So the question is not, I think, how to, if you start going in an agile way with an organization, you need to understand that some of these people and management parts will be broken a while, and you will learn how to do that. It's the same way as writing software. It's an architecture that will need fostering. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. Oops. So what's going on from this perspective to that perspective, the industrial to decentralized, is going from, for instance, from manager evaluation, the manager giving you feedback, the manager giving you targets, the manager doing everything, to peer feedback, targets coming from the Scrum team or the client interface. It's changing towards a networked, decentralized structure, and you can see this in target setting. You can see changes happening from approvals. So going from manager approval, I was hired by a company for a while. I was there an interim HR, and I just said, we have very, very smart consultants working for us for hundreds of euros per hour, and we make them write down their receipts, put their receipts somewhere, and go to their managers who is not even looking at the paper, signing it, sending it through paperwork to somebody who is paying it. Why? Why? Can we just, do lean thinking and quit the non-value adding stuff in here? Make them send the receipts by email or a picture to the person who is paying, and she can pay them. She can check if it sounds okay or not, and she can just pay them. And that was a shock for them, How would that even be possible? Somebody has to approve. What if somebody is going to, fool us? So what? You probably have, a minor percentage of people, if that, even that would do, try to trick the system. So we just changed that, and everyone loved it. It was built on trust. It was built on transparency. It was built on that the person who was paying said, okay, if I don't know, I'll just send it to the manager if I feel that I can't approve this. So just small things that are changing, can be changed from this to this. From approvals to social control. Some of the people, I heard you are also doing social control in learning in this company. So anyone can, this is happening as well. Instead of having the manager approve once a year your learning, you might learn all the time and get an approval from your team. Is this okay? Will this take our team forward? Will this bring more value to our client if I go to this conference or this course? And the team makes a decision. So this is happening all the time. From individual bonuses to collective, some kind of collective rewarding, and often we are seeing stuff move away from monetary rewarding towards social rewarding, towards other ways of rewarding. That's happening. And we see a shift happening from one-year cycles to ongoing as well. If you think about employee surveys, stop doing them once a year. That is just the most ridiculous thing that organizations are currently using hundreds of thousands of money on. Because, we can talk soon. Yeah. Think about this. Your memory is about, 3, 4, 5 weeks, basically, how you can evaluate what's been going on. And you've been asked once a year to rate your company on 145 different questions. And then you do that, you sit there and you wonder, why the earth am I doing this for the 10th year in a row? Nothing is ever changing anyway. You do that. The results of that mass comes in 4, 5, 6 months at best, when they are trying to gather that. So you basically, when you're an HR and a manager or leader, you will get rubbish data half a year from the point of where it was given, and it was already rubbish there. And you get that, and then you make people sit down and have meetings and come up with development ideas on that rubbish data, which was old, already there. It's a rubbish process. You would never create something like this as a software or a service to a client. But we are doing this in organizations. It's ridiculous. So we are seeing now a movement towards shorter, more accurate pulses, where you can actually start mixing and changing the questions and seeing which really are impacting the bottom line or sales or whatever. So we are, for instance, working with that. So we can combine people data with business data, or people data with operative data, or people data with whatever data you have, to see what really is impacting the things which are important. That's where it's heading, and I really hope that you guys will think about that. It's good to have maybe a trend line if you've done it for 45 years previously, but I'm not sure if it's really helpful in bringing the value with the employee survey. So that the idea is basically to develop the organization. Cool. From control, so how do you lead an agile organization? You can't direct it. It's not about up, top down. What you do is you give clear direction, you give clear boundaries, and you say, these are the boundaries, go do your best work. That's where we're heading, that's what our values are. This is why we exist. Do your best. And then you try to kind of support the system of going that direction. It's a totally different mindset for managers, totally different mindset, and it requires totally different skills as well, both skills and mindset and philosophy. So now we come to my last point is basically if you are starting to work with HR in an agile company, it's not going to be working in HR as in an own room and trying to plan all these processes and then implementing them. It's not going to be that. It's going to be working with the people, with the ones who are using your processes to create things that work in their work. That's what Agile HR is about. So for those who are not in HR, the question remains, how can you help HR succeed in this? Don't stand there looking at them, they are, implementing this kind of shitty feedback process. Try helping them instead. Try saying what works, what doesn't work. Try thinking with them. How can you build Agile HR together is the question in Agile organizations. Now, 1 minute past my time, and I'm very, very happy to let you chat a little bit, and let's have some questions as well. I'm really interested in hearing what you learned about Agile HR. So can you have that short discussion? What did I learn about Agile HR today? And talk with the person that you just talked with. And then we have a couple of comments, and then we can have the questions and answers. Is that okay for you guys? Yes? Okay, good. So, have a short chat. What did you learn about Agile HR today? Okay, thank you guys. There are a couple of guys here who have been in conferences, agile conferences. There's an experiment where you just put up your hand, and when you see somebody has their hand up, you also put up your hand. So what did you learn about Agile HR today? It would be very, very nice to kind of hear a couple of comments. Anyone who is screaming of joy and yes, I finally have the answers for all the questions of the universe. Anyone who feels that, okay? So let's hear from thank you.
Okay, hello. Thank you very much. For me, what I learned is that I think in traditional company, we don't call it agile, but I think it's the same thing, what we call maybe integral business or self-organization business. I was not aware that this is nearly the same. So I was always thinking agile is only for the IT. But I think in traditional more business we have same movement.
Yeah, there is. I mean, HR is stuff that you need to take care about, both administrative and people stuff, and you can do it in different ways. But all organizations, I would say, need it in some growth path. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Yeah.
Hi, first of all, thank you. And it's more questions than comments. I think it's quite straightforward, for example, for performance management, where you can have more like a fluid, several feedbacks, less longer plans, etc. And also for learning, it's also quite straightforward. So you can have micro-learning and YouTube videos, etc. Yeah. Also in normal companies. I mean, I wouldn't say my company is agile, really, at least not from HR point of view. But there are some areas where it's quite easy to implement that.
Yes.
But I'm wondering, so if you consult a company and you say, okay, you can start with, for example, performance management, make more feedbacks, change the process or the frequency. You can also go on with learning. But what about the other areas? I'm wondering how they would actually go step by step and make those changes.
Oh, wow. A huge questions. I mean, what I usually say is that there is no recipes. HR traditionally has worked in a way that, okay, this is how HR should be done, in the way that Nokia or Deloitte or these KPMGs, and they are doing, let's benchmark and do the same. That's been basically how HR is working. Now what we're seeing in the Agile field is that there are 10 different ways of paying salaries, or 20 different ways of paying salaries. There are several different ways of rewarding people. Feedback, there are, I know 5 different things immediately how to build feedback in. And it's very difficult to say this is the way you should change or this is the path you should take. What I can say though is many of these can be changed even if you're not in an agile company, which will make it more humane, more organic, more kind of work friendly to people and teams. As you said, for instance, performance. This is one of the toughest ones to start actually working with because often it is connected to bonuses, which is connected to salary? Where's salary? Payroll here, which is connected to payroll, which is connected to management, how managers work. So when they are connected and you got money involved, that's when it becomes tough. If you don't have money involved, it's easier to change to a more friendly, organic system. And when I work with companies, I try to make them understand and think themselves. So I co-create with them, because I don't have the answers for you, or for you, or for you, or for you. I can help you think around it and co-create together with you. That's basically a very open-ended answer. But again, it's not that straightforward, in my own opinion.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that I can still imagine that there's a hybrid situation. For example, for bonuses, you would still have some planning, some paper for performance, for example, but you can, for agile departments, have that fluent performance type of thing, but you don't really have to get rid of one to have the other one, right?
That's what we're working with too. In some cases, for instance, there's a client who has an R&D department going all into SAFe, and we're looking into how to just kind of, get them away from the corporate processes and build different processes for them. So I would definitely say step by step is a good way forward, because also changing everything at once to something to a more agile, or cutting these things is not that good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the very energetic workshop here.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering how that will translate into the German Mittelstand, because
and now I have to.
Yeah, because you have.
Mittelstand?
Do you know what Mittelstand means?
No.
Usually, it's well known outside of Germany now. It's a word. It's like the companies, middle-sized companies with strong hierarchies, one boss who decides everything.
Oh yeah.
And I see this big question mark in their eyes when I talk about agile, and they're like, "All right." Transparency, giving up my decision making. I'm not really sure how that will translate and how that will work.
I would say choose your battles and time will take care.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's what some of I was talking in thing in Finland as well, and these CEOs asked me, it's too difficult to change, and it's such a big mindset, we cannot change. I was like, yeah, don't do it, because you won't get there if you think that way, and time will take care of you. That's how it is. If you're in digital business and you don't start changing, fine, don't. I'm not going to start hitting my head with those CEOs. So, choose where you want to put your energy, because there is a need for this. Yeah, there was a...
Hi. I used to work in a 130-year-old company.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I got like a crash course on what it's about to work in a very industrial place.
Yeah.
So if you could look into the IT, it's like a Stone Age, something like that, in that direction.
Yeah.
And where's like the best place to inject this idea of agile into a big company or an old company like that to like spark that idea? Is it like in the ground, in the
I would
bottom
say
with the people, or
it's
is it
on the team level, where they are working with something digital with clients, where they can try out an agile technique, way of working. Try out it for a month or so and see how it works, because usually it brings energy, but it also brings new kind of difficulties. And I think that if you find a small community that is interested in this, that's where it usually starts, because the big guys are not going to get this anytime soon in that company. And R&D is another one, because if R&D has realized if they do anything digital, or even hardware nowadays, I know some companies that are doing kind of hardware development in lean startup way as well. So they realize that they can kind of deliver faster and get feedback from prototypes faster if they use lean startup. So that's probably as well somewhere where I could start looking into this, read this book, leave them books lying around, and send them YouTube videos about some cool guy talking. And
Thanks.
yeah, very good answer again. You probably knew that. This really sounds ridiculous, standing here and pretending that I know something.
Probably you know that. And you were always referring to digital problems.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand why, because basically it's not limited on digital
You are
problems.
so right.
Or do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, you're so right. That's why I usually like to work with agile technologies, agile ways also when we do HR. So we use Scrum or we use Kanban when we develop these. Yeah, so it can be used anywhere.
I would have another question, just one, because like
sure, a bonus one.
You were taking out those cards, and basically my understanding is that you put an organization kind of out of the balance, in a way.
If I take out some cards?
Yeah. Yes, basically.
If I take out payroll, I think that would be out of balance.
Yes, yes, that's the thing. But how do you work on that going to the next balanced state, kind of? Or do you have an answer on that?
Oh,
or how do you deal with that?
Chaos.
Oh,
It's agile. It's agile. Let's see what happens. Okay, there is something burning there. Let's take care of that. Let's prepare that it's going to burn for a while. It's, because... Yeah, changing performance, we know some stuff about that. We know that it's tough to cut the bonus thing, and the management has to rethink the bonuses, basically. But when you get to more modern performance, so it's kind of when you start working with performance in a way that it's not about rating you, but it's about growing you. It's about supporting you work with your, fullest potential. People usually are really happy with that change. Managers are usually happy with that change as long as they get the support for doing that and having those discussions for real, like I'm your manager, I'm on your side, and I really want to support you doing a good job. And that change usually is a welcome change because, look at us, we talked about the rating stuff. Nobody believes that anymore, or very few people think that is useful for anyone. Or then I'm living in a bubble, in an agile bubble maybe. Maybe in your company they love rating people. Yeah. It's a good bubble, and sometimes it feels like talking about religion to people who already go to church. So, hey.
Hi. So, thanks for the talk, first of all.
Thank you.
But my question is, what do you think about traditional companies and then trying to be agile? But in the reality, the problem is that these two types of companies are so fundamentally different that it's super hard for any traditional company to change. And we talked about the hybrid way, but if you look into the details, you see that the traditional way of working and structuring means that you are way slower than the agile way. So I always had the problem, and I've seen some bigger companies trying to implement more agile methods and ideas, but the problem was always that at some level it stops, and then it becomes super slow again, and then everybody's disappointed.
This is exactly the point why transformations are so tough, because it's not enough it's on team level, it's not enough it goes on portfolio level, it's not enough on program level. Suddenly you start hitting your head on budgets, on planning, or on status, on even on the board. This should go all the way up to the board, that they would understand that the work is done in a different way.
Do you think it actually works to start somewhere in between? Because you could also argue, let's just let all these crazy companies die and wait until everything is like chaos, and then you start all the agile companies again. Why? Because I've seen companies really failing with trying to implement agile, and then it was a mixed kind of disappointment. And in the beginning, it was more like, it doesn't really, it's so slow, everything is so hierarchical, but somehow it worked, and afterwards they tried to be agile, and at some point it just stopped. I think that often the people trying to push it higher in the hierarchy, they are often seen as some kind of a rebel.
Yeah.
And it becomes difficult to actually to tell managers and senior level people that actually if you try to really implement it, that means to a very certain degree that you will lose the official power. And that scares a lot of them.
Oh yes. So on the other hand, I fully agree with what you're saying, and there are different ways that these companies are trying to start changing. And many of them have the old school thinking that we have to change the whole thing, but that won't probably work. So I usually talk about starting with some unit which is already agile and really needs to be agile all the way to the top. Or then if they want to, many of them are now realizing this boat will not change, or this boat will not turn, so they are instead starting a startup somehow, and financing a startup, or with venture capitalists, or with own capital, and doing that in that way as well. But then we see what I think, I'm not sure if you've seen the same thing in the market, but in 2 years' time, I've seen the change going from all, developers and scrum masters and coaches talking about agile to now executives and boards talking about agile. It's they started to use that language, and when they start to use that language, they are starting to get interested in this, and then the change might be quite quick as well. I have worked with this for 6 years, and last week on Monday was the first time I was speaking with board members about this, explaining what is happening to them, and they sat there and were like, okay, and they were kind of explaining, but the managers are they can't change, and the HR leader usually just takes care of these administrative things. How could they lead the agile change? And I'm saying but it also comes back to the board. It's what you decide this organization is going to do. Is you're giving the direction, you're making the strategy. Cool. So, hey, it's 8:23. You probably are thirsty and tired of me babbling. I really want to sincerely thank you for being here. It's such an honor to be able to speak about something that is so important for me. And I hope that you will be able to help your HR start taking steps in this direction, to explain to your managers or executives what it's all about. And please link in with me, or link in with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm very happy to help, and this is what I work with. Thank you so much.